Welcome to my How Healthy Are You monthly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist and nutritional blood microscopist. Today is November 7th, 2022, and this is podcast number 132. Now, this podcast is going to be on two related topics, linoleic acid, which I'm sure most of you don't know what that is, and autoimmune diseases, specifically rheumatoid arthritis, but essentially this will work for all autoimmune diseases. This is a very important podcast, and I request that you share this podcast with people you know that have autoimmune diseases or consume too much linoleic acid. So let's get started. Linoleic acid is considered an essential fat. However, 99% of people in the United States consume way excess what they need to. And as a result of consuming excess linoleic acid, it works like metabolic poison in our system. Now, what it is, it's an omega-6 polyunsaturated fat. So sometimes you will see the acronym PUFA. Some of you go out and buy supplements and you'll see omega-3, omega-6, omega-9, and you think, wow, I might as well get all three. But that's a mistake. You never want to purchase or supplement with omega-6. We get plenty of omega-6 in our diets, okay? So most of these omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids are in vegetable oils. They have lots and lots of these omega-6, and that's why I always tell people to avoid vegetable oil and sunflower oil and corn oil and safflower oil, things like that. But linoleic acid is also in other areas. For instance, it's in olive oil, and olive oil can be up to 27% linoleic acid, but it could be as low as 3%. So there's a big range there. You think you're good if you don't eat these grains and these vegetable oils, but chickens are often fed with linoleic acid-rich grains. So one thing to remember about all this, linoleic acid is bad stuff. And some people think, well, if I increase my omega-3 fatty acid intake to compensate for my high omega-6 fatty acid intake, therefore the ratio gets good, is that going to be all right? What happens is you end up taking in too many fats, and if I were to look at your blood under the microscope, I would see a lot of fat in the plasma. This is known as chylus. Sometimes you think of it as triglycerides in a standard blood test. Too much fat in the blood, and the fat competes with space for your red blood cells to pick up oxygen, meaning you get fatigued. You don't want excess fat in the blood. So the best thing to do is to minimize your intake of linoleic acid. Okay, so what's going on here is for the past 100 years or so, there's been a lot of flawed research, and the researchers suggested that saturated animal fat caused heart disease. That's actually not quite true, but everyone bought into this, and people switched from getting their fat from animal sources to plant sources. So a long time ago, 100 years ago or so, the amount of linoleic acid in a standard diet was 2 to 3 grams a day, very small amount. Now it's 30 to 40 grams a day. And like I said before, this is metabolic poison. This is the reason there's a lot of problems with human health. In fact, it's the main reason for the decline in human health. Most physicians don't even understand this. They don't realize that linoleic acid causes premature death. Now, the chemistry, the science behind this is that excess linoleic acid damages your metabolism and it lessens your ability to generate energy in the mitochondria. So the mitochondria, if you remember, are the energy centers of all the cells in our body. And if you remember all of my anti-aging podcasts, it all came back to the mitochondria, making sure they're effective and efficient and producing energy and not getting damaged. So linoleic acid weakens the mitochondria. They can't make enough energy. This leads to obesity, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and even dementia. So that essentially covers all the main health problems of the past century. And the main cause for that is our excessive intake of linoleic acid from vegetable sources, essentially the vegetable oils. Now, on a side note, eliminating seed oils, so oils that are going to be high in linoleic acid, it also reduces the risk of sunburn and skin cancer. Just a little side note about the negative effects of seed oils. So as you increase the linoleic acid content in your body, you increase your susceptibility to UV radiation, excuse me, which is essentially coming from the sun. And that's how we get skin cancers and sunburns. Now, switching gears a little bit, if we're going to look at rheumatoid arthritis, there's about 54 million people in the U.S. right now that have some sort of autoimmune disease, so something to keep in mind. Now, if I look at linoleic acid profiles of various cooking oils, just some information. I'm keeping this at the office on my front desk. If you want to look at it, if you're in this area, grapeseed oil is 70% linoleic acid, and most people substitute grapeseed oil for vegetable oil or corn oil in recipes, such as when they're baking. But grapeseed oil is the highest oil for linoleic acid. It's just as high as safflower oil and sunflower oil, both of which you shouldn't be using. Grapeseed oil has other benefits, but the problem is that linoleic acid. I had mentioned before, olive oil has a range 3 to 27%, so you can find olive oils that are good. Avocado oil, somewhat of a heavy oil for cooking with, but it's only 10%, so if you can use it, that would work. Now, ghee, G-H-E-E, is only 2%, and so is coconut oil. This is your best bet for cooking, and anytime you're baking, if you can use ghee, which is essentially butter, right, a grass-fed butter, or coconut oil, that is going to be your best bet. And if I look at the seed nuts, these are the nuts I normally put or mix in with my oatmeal every other morning. Hemp, chia, and flaxseed. Hemp seed, 57% linoleic acid. Chia seed is much lower. It's 16%, and flaxseed 14%. So they're about the same. But the one I'm going to start limiting is hemp and hemp seed. So it's very high in linoleic acid. I don't want a lot of linoleic acid in my body, and there are easy ways to minimize it. You're not going to eliminate it, most likely. You'd have to do something that I'm coming up to soon, and that is a carnivore diet. That would be what one would have to do in order to eliminate all the linoleic acid. So, like I said, the physicians, they didn't really understand what was going on, and the flawed research suggested that saturated animal fat caused heart disease. Well, that's really not true. If we look at rheumatoid arthritis, okay, 54 million people have an autoimmune disease, and the best way to deal with any autoimmune disease is to get your vitamin D from the sun. And I'm going to talk about this in a little more detail in next week's newsletter. So it'll be the written section of the newsletter. So keep an eye out for that. But bottom line, do the best you can to get your vitamin D from the sun, meaning you shouldn't need NEED to supplement vitamin D. It's much better to get it from your sun, roughly 15 to 30 minutes a day when the sun's high in the sky. But the final resort, if you're having trouble or if you know of someone that has an autoimmune disease such as rheumatoid arthritis and nothing works, they have lots of inflammation in their body and they're complaining and they're a mess, well, this is something they should try. It is the carnivore diet. This is not something to do if you're healthy. Remember, humans are omnivores, and the plants have vitamins and minerals and enzymes and fiber, which are all good. But the reason there's a protocol for avoiding plants is that plants are loaded with self-defense chemicals. So plants know how to defend themselves. And chemically, these self-defense chemicals are the reason a lot of people will have extreme reactions or not just rheumatoid arthritis, but any other autoimmune disease, so that the body just gets into this very strange autoimmune phase where it's just attacking everything, including our cells. Sometimes that is caused from these healthy plants that we eat, and the way to avoid it is to go full carnivore diet. And this was something spoken about in a podcast with Joe Rogan, and it got a lot of traction. That was about a year or more ago, but there's a lot of truth to this. So I'll repeat, vegetables are essential, they're healthy, but in rare instances, such as an autoimmune disease, eating few to no vegetables can be very therapeutic. So please share this content with anyone you know who has rheumatoid arthritis or any other autoimmune disease. Also, remember what I said about linoleic acid. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think about these topics. And as always, thanks for listening.